wanted to say thank you all for having me here today and giving me the opportunity. And can you all hear me okay? Loud and clear. All right, awesome. I just wanted to check in. So I'm going to just take this moment just to open up and say I'm going to be human here, but I am a man of God. So that is the greatness to be human. You all got me so full already. I don't forgot what I wanted to come say to you all, but I'm going to just let God lead this moment. Thank you, Brother Bishop, as always, Pastor Christine, and Bishop Charlie. Just thank you all for your love. The first thing that comes to my heart as I open up is I started here in this ministry on my birthday, which is the most telling part of this story. I started in this ministry on my birthday. My first, Shemeka brought me here and invited me to one church, July 12th, 2015. And I just kind of been sitting and learning and listening and seeing so much blessing and revelation and confirmation that I'm grateful to watch all you all grow over the years, see the vulnerabilities, but also see the healing prayers of God transforming his people. So I just want to open up with that. That was my informal opening. As I am I guess I started in the Baptist church when I was young, at the age of 13 myself, and said my first sermon when I was 13 years old. And I'm going to be something where I'm stepping into ministry again, and really opening up my spirit to hear from the Lord and again, speak to his people. I do want to open it up with a blessing and a verse from Psalms 115, verse 13. And it says, he will bless them that fear the Lord, both small and great. And this is where this starts for me, that we speak today on something so powerful and so mighty as the conversion of Saul to Paul. And as I took on this task to come here, the great one church that I've seen from wells just, flow so deeply to open up my spirit to be here today, you all. I am so grateful and honored to give my testimony to my Saul to Paul transformation, as well as speak to how this ministry has created so much confirmation and how we even got to this point from 5 years ago and how we got to this point in the last few days. As Brother Bishop said, I had no plans starting the year with no New Year's resolution to say I was going to come and speak at one church this year. And as I say that, I'm here as a vessel of God to speak clearly on how God has transformed my life. My life started as humble as anyone's can. I'm the son of two immigrant parents. My beautiful mother is from Sierra Leone, and she came to America at the age of 16 on a dream that she could be somebody. Her mother scraped everything they had just on an acceptance to go to St. Augustine's College here in North Carolina. No scholarship, no guarantees, but working truly in God's faith that there was a better opportunity in America for her and her sister, who they traveled together with only $20 in their pocket. And I say that to say, God and his faith converts us all. God and our faith converts us all, even when we want to condemn others, even when we want to persecute. And as Brother Bishop touched on, that's where the story of Saul starts from. It's a man who only saw persecution in his other fellow Jews, not those to say they were Christians at the time, if we let history serve itself truly, but those who were a secret sect of the Jewish faith that believed in the Messiah has risen and their prophecies were declared. And he saw these people as just as infidels or not that worthy as any others in that time period. And we all go through that period in our lives where we can judge each other. And as humbly as my story starts, as I always say, my story didn't start with me. My conversion didn't start with me. My faith journey started with my mother, because if she didn't move herself from a whole continent to a whole nother continent and in a whole nother world to come to Southern America in the late 1960s, 70s, Mom, forgive me if I got the years wrong. We'll get that story part right one day. But to come into America on the opportunity of faith alone and the hope of education, I bring that spirit to all of y'all, that you're looking at a living witness of what that looks like. Faith in action, faith in might. So you speak of my family today, know it started with a faithful mother. You see any success I've had today, know it started with a faithful mother. And if she didn't move in faith and change her name, if she didn't move in faith and make sure that her children were provided for, if she didn't move in faith and didn't want to make all her dreams come true, then I couldn't stand here before you and give honor to God to say, you know, my Saul to Paul conversion was that still of a person who made bad decisions, even with a faithful mother. That's still a person who a faithful mother led him to probably one of the most dangerous places in the world, where I started this life in New York, born in the Queen County, which is Queens, New York, and raised in the King County, which is Brooklyn, New York. And started in Brooklyn, New York. Anybody that knows anything about Brooklyn, it is definitely everything they say and more. And it is definitely an experience that gives you a different kind of education that doesn't necessarily encourage you to make all the right decisions. But with that, myself, my sister, my siblings, and how my story comes together still doesn't tell the depths of having a faithful mother. Still doesn't tell the depths of what it really was to change. Because in that beginnings of my own heart and my start, you know, I had to move around a little bit to really start to figure out the seeds of what was possible. And I start this too to speak of a name conversion, because I was going to go somewhere today, but as always in one church, the spirit will move you around more than you can ever think you could do yourself. And I thank you, because I'm talking about Saul and Paul. It ain't really about me. I just use myself as an example as I'll model others in these examples. But it's about the change. And like I said, the spirit that I felt here in one church, we moved the spirit here because we understand that God don't do nothing unless we do something for God. Because God is. God don't got to do nothing to prove nothing to nobody. And that realization is what kept moving me as I changed and I became more. God won't gonna change for me. I had to change to understand who I was in God and what God intended for us as man to be. Man meaning woman or man, but we all man. We all a hybrid of God's reality and his likeness and his manifestation. And I think that's the encounter that we all have when our names start to be known differently in different lands. So as I go through my Saul to Paul, I'm a researcher, I'm a historian, and I went deep here because I knew Brother Bishop was going to challenge me, and I thank you for it, because I needed it. I needed to step. I mean, I see the thrill that he gives this place, and as a man, we need to make sure that we can be thrilling to our land and be thrilling to our ladies and be thrilling to our families in a way that makes us who they look up to, and not the ones who call themselves celebrities, who sometimes don't have any real substance and merit to their character yet. They themselves are still trying to figure out their character. That's why they pretend to be other people. And I know that firsthand. And I say that as a witness to say God is real. God always knows who he is. And God is. And not that of he as a man, but he as a force, a mighty force that thrives through all of us as we animate. I have to give honor in this moment to my grandmother. My grandmother is the one who really, my mother is the seed of faith, but my grandma is the one who taught me the word. And I didn't understand it, or probably didn't want to receive it when I was young. Being a young kid from Brooklyn, I came up with a different kind of code. Grew up under hip hop music, hip hop culture, all the nature of misogyny and neglect towards people's feelings and all kinds of ill-begotten thought processes of getting ahead of myself and hustling harder than everybody else. But over time, God kept giving me an encounter, and he kept on protecting me from death, literally. And that witness in itself breaks down all barriers, breaks down all hardness, breaks down all heavy heart. And through that journey God put me on, that's when the Saul to Paul conversion started. But as I talk as a historian, I have to tell the story correctly, because it really favors my true conversion to make those who are either looking for theirs or understanding how it really works clear. Saul, as he was known, And we think we know it from historically to say his name was automatically transferred to Paul. But as I look at the text and I bring all of y'all to, if you want to take notes so you can pull it up, and I'm not going to read the full verse, but I bring you to two confirmations of the conversion of Saul. It's in Acts 9:5-6, where I'm paraphrasing, but it says, "Who are you, Lord?" And in the paraphrase, it says, "I am Jesus." And that in itself, what was it that Saul in the moment was faced with? Was the face, was the light that was showing us truly why Jesus is with us all the time, why there's no longer an ice age, why there's no longer that of but light and warmth that shook this earth when Jesus rose above us all. Because Jesus in itself was God's living essence of a star that was burning here to give us warmth here in this planet as we continue to bring. If this world was not for Jesus, we would not have our time, we would not have our calendar, we would not have our celebrations as we know it today. If it was not for Jesus, this world would be in disarray. Do we not understand that? If it was not for those encounters, if it was not for those conversions, Paul did not meet Jesus as one of the original apostles, though he went further with the work, And what it was in that deep moment is because the encounters in the light. The light finds you when you're in a dark place. The light overtakes you when you're in a dark place. The light pushes back the COVID because the light stimulates the blood. And I say that to say, in the testimony of faith, Saul was a man known to one land due to his deeds and his tasks, due to pronunciation and translation. Paul was who he was known to due to a new land association and translation of his name. And I say this conversion of finding ourselves in God as I too found God at one point in my life, where at some point people know you for one name, and in another light, they'll come to know you by another name. And then those you know in your life, based on what they call you, you know at what period of time they knew you. And sometimes people will call you by a name to hold you in a period of time in your life, to remind you of old things, remind you of things that make you feel littleness in your life. But when you have that conversion with the light and you know how to shine, all things are possible through Christ Jesus.
Thank you.
All things are possible. We are the light, my fellow people here at One Church. You all have shown it to me. You've brought me back from the dead. You raised me back at troubled times. This beautiful woman here, we didn't intend to meet and build a family. As I speak freely, we both came from what could be seen as brokenness to show people what God can do. We came from our own dark places to realize that no, that was just some ash that spread on us. But no, we were light. And so what we chose to do is unite our light to be even brighter, to be name conversion. And you see that. Some of y'all used to call her Shamika. This is Shemeka. Because this is what it also feels like to convert your name, to become something new. And as I bring it back to my own testimony, God changed my name, literally and figuratively. And it was with an encounter with his face that I saw Christ Jesus. It was an encounter with his face, not his color, not his race, not his creed, but his face. And it wouldn't leave me. It wouldn't leave me. Now, let me set this up for y'all, because y'all know Saul to be a bad character, right? So in my lifetime too, I used to steal. I never robbed because I was never a person to brutalize people, but I was a bully. But I was the kind of bully that liked to bully the bullies. So if you were somebody that, I guess I saw myself some kind of Robin Hood or something, that I'm a beat up the bullies that picking on other people that are little. Because I always, I realized just because, sometimes some things start off small, don't mean you treat it like it's little, right? And as I take this story and I say to you all, looking at Acts 9:5-6 as we speak, there was a confirmation where Paul had to give, when it's true when someone comes into the Spirit of the Lord, when the story don't change. Something's true When someone comes into the spirit of the Lord, when their story don't change, they'll tell you how it happened, when it happened, what it felt like. I say that because I spent once going through a prison ministry in my time where I saw tattooed brothers, tall, 6, 7 years, could have been NBA players, could have been this and that and third, but in jail, incarcerated. Why? Because they did not know who they were. They did not understand their identity. They did not understand the identity. Half of them were wrapped up in the tragic hurt of their fathers, something I can identify with. Sometimes they were hurt because of things people said to them. Some of them were hurt because of lack of education or their inability to truly process information caused them to create violence and problems and create anger within themselves that they couldn't even translate to communicate to people what was going on with them. And I saw so much of that in them that all you could do to find God was to forgive it. To help people reclaim their identity, you got to forgive the pain of what you lacked, what you didn't have. Paul had to become himself because Saul had to forgive himself. So he could still do the work that God calls us to do, because it's never too late, One Church. It is never too late. We never fall too far off the horse. You need to give yourself a day or two to be depressed. You need to give yourself a year or two to be depressed. Guess what? God's still waiting for you. And it's never too late to reclaim a new identity. And I stand as a living testament that you can continuously change your name. Be known to different lands as a new name. Be known to different places as a new thing. To confirm Paul in his testimony, he said in Acts 22, 6 through 16, 26, 12 through 18, he confirms the first encounter. Again, I'm not going to read scripture out to y'all because Brother Bishop told me I'm going to do something different for y'all. So he understood me a lot better. So I thank you for that setup to allow me to be me. But I tell y'all for the confirmation of what is being said, when you have an encounter with the Lord, you will see his face. And when you have that encounter, he will continuously have you tell that story the same way, over and over again, because it is our testimony that converts the true believers. It's our own personal testimony, our own revelation with the Lord that truly converts those who I've seen here at this beautiful place called One Church. Is that when you come into the Lord yourself, when you talk to someone who says not just what the Bible said, but what did God say to you? What has he said into your life? That converts people. Just like these lyrics from all these songs. When you tell people what God has done for you, oh, something special happens. God allowed me to find forgiveness. Forgiveness for the people I may not have been nice to. Forgiveness for the family members who may have not been the greatest or knew what else to do. I grew up in a cultural difference, y'all. My mother is African, my father is Jamaican, and I grew up in America, in Brooklyn. I grew up around thinking Puerto Ricans and Dominicans were just light-skinned Black people because I was not sure. Because everybody was Black to me growing up. And I can't keep it more than my true, authentic truth, that I saw people always as the same. I thought we were just different hues of the same thing. And then I grew up and then I moved to the South very young because of my behavior and the choices I was making. And I learned even then it was a different culture. As everyone who was truly from the South, as y'all always talk about y'all Southern charm or y'all ways, the beauty and the breadth of it all changed my life. I literally had to learn to love North Carolina in a way that opened up my heart. My mother, who worked at a Baptist church, I saw so much and learned so much, both good and bad, both in how sometimes the old way of ministry can get stale and not bring a new generation forth. That we have to be willing to adapt the tongue of the Lord in an ability to translate. This Bible wasn't written in English when it first started. Yet why we don't translate in these young people when they need to hear it in trap or when they need to hear it in certain ways. We got to be willing. If we want to convert more people, we got to know how to translate to their language, not leave the Lord. And that's what we get caught up in sometimes, is that we either thumping our Bibles at them or we leaving the Lord to go be foolish with them because we get excited. because we get amongst people. Because when those gather, it feels all the same. It feels good. And so what happens is we can't forget his face. We can't forget our name conversion. We can't forget what our names mean. In my lifetime, I've gone so deep in my life, not only to just literally, let me talk about a name change. When I was born, today I stand to you as Michael Stewart-Isaacs. When I was born Michael Baxter. My biological father came in my life and changed my last name, so I match his. So I became Michael Stewart. Grew up most of my life in my career. By the time I was 16 years old, even when I was young, I started my first business to a faithful mother who had me in flea markets, learned how to sell people since the age of 11, 12 years old, was an accountant at the church and different places, taught me finance at a young age, not knowing what she was doing, but only encouraging the young me to start early in life. And so in that encounter, those experiences allowed for a development that led to me starting my first business. So entrepreneurship was a journey. It wasn't something I knew what I was doing. It was, again, off of faith and moving forward. And I made more mistakes than I can count, but I have committed myself in the Lord that his holy, holy, wise spirit will guide me through the process as I'm growing in new names and new responsibilities and being able to grow. As Brother Bishop said, my family is my glory. My family is my glory. God is the victory. And I heard Pastor Christine say that earlier. Victory. I love that word. Victory. Woo! It just sounds so good. I don't want to win no more. I don't even want to win in life no more. I want victory. And that's what it feels like when your name changed. Because you take control of your life. You take control of it because it's yours. You can't wield it doing the foolishness that we may have done in our past, but it is yours to wield because God will just rush through you and you don't even have to do anything. As I speak to you now, this is not how I wanted to start. But the Spirit of God moved through me to be my authentic self. It is not too late in regards to the Spirit of the Lord. It is not too late in regards to understanding why the Trinity is important, why the Trinity creates the conversion, why we have a surname, a first name, and a middle name. All this is to honor that of God and that of our conversion, that we have the opportunity. As we adapt to this spirit, as we say Christian, these are the names that we call, right? It's the history. I'm a historian. It's the names that we call to ourselves that honor God and his celebration. As I look to give the respect that I want to bring forth, and we talk about name change, I got to give respect to some people who've inspired me. And one of the people who I idolize, especially here in the Black History Month, and it's very key to today, because today, if those who know, we celebrate his passing, and that is to the brother Malcolm X, or some of us from the name change may know Malcolm Little. And this is a story of a brother who is probably one of the most misunderstood spiritual figures of modern history. Yet his faith and love for God, regardless of what the religious practices were, was that of love of God and understanding what it really was to live a moral life, what it really was to build your community, what it really was to find freedom, what it really was to build each other. And his words and his ideas permeate over and over again. And in my lifetime, as I've gone on a journey of my own name change, I started off Michael Baxter as a child, converted to Michael Stewart from a father who wanted to make up for his mistake. Later on, having the choice to honor a father who raised me, which is my father, Caswell Hugh Isaacs, as I speak all three of his names, because he's part of the ancestors with us. I say that to say, I've become Michael Stewart-Isaacs. My name means who is like God. Michael, who is like God. My name, Namdi, comes from my family from back in Africa, but this is a part of a Nigerian Igbo tribe, which is given to me, it means my father is still with us. My father's alive. God, our father, is with us. Namdi, Namdi, Namdi. And then my last name, Stewart, Isaacs, I hold so dear. Stewart means keeper of the estate. Isaacs means he who laughs. That's why I love to smile with you all. Because when I figured out that all the different pieces of my story in my life was a part of God protecting me, God guiding me, God creating the conversion of my name. As I speak today of my own name conversion, and I give honor again to Brother Malcolm X. Today is his passing. A man who converted his name from Malcolm Little to Malcolm X, a man who was persecuted, a man who committed atrocities, lived the unsaved life, as some may call it, and then found a conversion in prison of all places. Because God will find you everywhere and anywhere if you allow for yourself to look up, if you allow for yourself to bathe in your tears. I say to people, I learned the other day, and let me bring this around. When I think about Brother Malcolm and his family, I was fortunate enough a few years ago to meet one of his daughters and befriend a couple of his other daughters over the years. And I was on my own journey just recently changing my name to Michael Stewart-Isaacs. So I just say Stewart-Isaacs. And I found an opportunity to sit down with the daughter to only find that all my years of research, everything I thought I knew about her father was wrong. And for this woman to set the record straight, even to me, a fan, right? Because that's what I guess I was at the time, to educate me on truly what her father stood for. Nothing of militancy, nothing of all the things that have been misnomered about Malcolm, but those of a man who was a lover of his children, who adored his daughters, who adorned them with love every time he was with them. A father, a father, a father. And when I think about how he spoke to the world, he spoke to the world as a father. See, men miss their blessings sometimes because we want to stay being little boys. But the trick to truly finding your manhood and your maturity is when you understand that God calls us to be a father. I hear you too, Brother Bishop, they call you dad because you feed us that way, brother. You understand? We are called to be fathers. We are called that to be mothers, nurturers, those who keep the fruit from spoiling. We have callings in every new name God can convert on us. And we have to understand that what you are known by is how you show up for people. Could Paul allow them to call him Saul and think of him as somebody who wasn't converted? Or no, he went to the people and he showed them that he changed. He went to the people to the point where they protected him. They protected him because they saw his change. And I speak to that life as well too, that I will continue to give my life and give my name to the people, to God's people. I set my life to service. I set my life to what I call join every spirit universally serving. God's revelation did not just come with just seeing his face and some ideals and ooh, and like I'm on LSD type of trips. This was work. This was study. This was deeper. This was a romance. I had to start writing God love letters in this conversion for God to find his favor in what my life could be, for God to bring education around me that I never took the conventional route towards education. You're looking at a self-educated person. I have some college, but if it wasn't again for a faithful mother, I tell you now, you're looking at a self-educated person. And I found God in that truth. Because God is the greatest education. You look at a person that's been around so many superstars I can't even begin to acknowledge. And I tell you, none of them come greater as God. None of them come greater until you see the face of Christ. Nothing comes that great. It doesn't matter who they are. They all people looking to find his glory, looking to find this truth. They hungry for it. One church, they hungry for it. Don't deny yourself the opportunity to tell people the experience you have in here. Don't deny the opportunity to tell them that we are now all having a Saul to Paul conversion experience. That's one of the requirements now. If I'm going to come speak, we're going to document this on behalf of Brother Malcolm, on behalf of those who spoke up and gave their lives towards people having freedom, having a little bit more encouragement on the image of the Black man, on the image of the Black woman. We thank you all for what you stand for. You don't understand how much love in my heart I have and excitement I have for the film project you all are working on, and all the continuing recurring series and all the blessings of reward that God will bring to your hand, and the awards you win for these projects, and all the different blessings that have come amongst the house of one church, one media. We see you. We see you, and we see what you all are doing. Just keep on going. We are all just right there. But when you claim your name change, when you claim that conversion, people can't see you like you was Malcolm in prison. They can't see you like you was Malcolm on the streets. You got to become that X. You got to become that enigma. You got to become something new. And I thank you all deeply for this opportunity to share a man who's a family man first, a husband, someone who is grateful and gratitude. So I share with you all again in the spirit of faith, in the spirit of growth and blood. Know that this I say to you, in your life and despair, in the moment of your greatest tears, know that God has put us in a world that when you cry, when you tearing up, just know that that's why we cry. It's to grow. Your tears are your water to grow. This is when you know you're maturing. This is people holding back from maturity because they don't want to be able to cry. And when you cry, you release intention, and you're releasing the substance that God uses to grow us as men and women. That's why women are more mature than men sometimes, because y'all willing to show your emotion and grow yourself through your tears. But now men, all the men that are on this call, be okay to cry. Be okay to be sensitive. I heard Brother Bishop say that a few weeks back. Be sensitive. We don't all have to be some kind of macho to be tough. I don't gotta say I'm nothing to play with for you to think I'm nothing to play with. We got to learn how to stand. What you see is God. You see a father. So yeah, I'm nothing to play with because I'm a father. I have responsibilities. I have maturity I have to come into. I have those, and that creates the conversion too. Is that willingness to be mature, even to our greatest faults. And it's know that it's a part of the development as a father, right? My oldest son I've raised right now is 21 years old. I know I don't look it. My oldest son I raised right now is 21 years old. He's not my son by blood, but he's my son by raising. And as me and Shemeka came together, we both were divorced. And we found each other as what I call a second chance. A second chance. God kept saying to me over my years and my travels, you're going to get a second chance. And I'm like, God, I don't know. And I had to grow into maturity to realize I may have not been looking for Miss Right in the right places. That's a part of conversion too, right? You go to the wrong kind of places thinking you're going to find someone to have a good time with. And then the time you had was good, but everything else after that was bad. All right, can I get a hallelujah, church? Can I get a? We still have a chance to find God's love for us. We still have a chance to find God's glory for us. Again, the best time in my life is speaking in my prison ministry. And I know me and Brother Bishop are going to talk more about those types of things. I know it's COVID and I know those things, but shoot, they can get virtual. We'll figure out a way. A black man walking into a prison, they'll check you down, pat you down, and let you go in because they knew I was there. But when you have to leave these people you built a bond with, and they're literally watching you in their cells, in their windows, walking out, walking through the gates, that used to be the hardest time of my life. Because when God's spirit moves people, it moves them. And I'm fortunate to this day that I can say a lot of those young men who made it out after a few years or whatever their time frame, some of them are doing well. Some of them working for car dealerships, selling the best car, Maserati. Some of them are doing well. Why? Because they were told then the Saul to Paul truth, and they didn't have to be beholden to society and the standards of a system. Society will either give you a system or you can choose to find God and create your own. That's what your creator is giving you an opportunity to. This society too was structured in the glory of God. This society too called Manifest Destiny, believing, wielding what I say is obvious in God we trust. Wielding God to some of the most nefarious acts that this country may have ever perpetrated, yet still try to wield the greatest force ever. Because God ain't trying to hide from us, good or bad. I'm gonna let y'all hold on to that for a moment. God is not hiding from us, good or bad. And that's the confusion. I think that's the blessing of One Church, why I enjoy this space. Because that's the message I keep on sending. Come with your brokenness. Come plain. Come as you are. People say it. I've heard churches say it. And I think they want to mean it. But tradition. If tradition wasn't the first COVID, I don't know what it was. Because it can stay with you. It can make you sick. It can do all kinds of things to you, making you feel you're wrong about a life that God only made right. God never told us that we weren't sinners. They say you were sinners. And that's the thing I always drew for myself. Y'all take it as you want. But God told me I was a sinner. So why am I trying so hard to pretend like I ain't never sinned? Why am I working so hard to pretend like I never did anything wrong because I now tell people I know God? I lost some great friends because of this truth, for knowing God. Because they like to beat you over the head, Mike, more than they like to put something in your brain and your mind, Mike. They tell you to read something, Mike. Oh, you like that rap lyric? Boy, let me get you in songs real quick. What? You know, you got to convert people and meet them where they at. But some people ain't ready for that conversion. And sometimes people know you for an old name, as I said before, and they'll call you back to those old names to keep you from the strength of the new name that God has put upon you. You all now stand, as I said, I put a blessing on y'all endeavors in film and television, and y'all gonna be known more for your character name than you're probably gonna be known for your name until you continue to make your name. And that's just how this whole thing works. And I put a blessing on that for all of you all. I thank you all for giving me space. I want to open this space up now for anyone who else wants to share. I can't say I'm finished. I don't think there was a beginning to even say I was finished, but I'm led to say I would love to hear from the church. And you know, I think I said a lot. I tried my best to give a good spot of how I converted. You know, my story is long. So, you know, so I thank you all. Thank y'all for the engagement. Thank y'all. I want to know what you think about what a name change should feel like and look like. And please, again, let's continue the dialogue. I have so many notes, but last I do want to say is thank you, Brother Bishop, for touching on the word and how we use our word. And you said something about negative to positive. And that's my spirit right now, is that I learned to go from the negative to the positive. I done learned, as I say, I'm obvious in God we trust. I done came from nothing. Now I'm something. I done came from nothing. Now I'm something, and I'm something like a G. I done came from nothing. Now I'm something. I done came from nothing. Now I'm something, and I'm what you want to be. It's obvious. In God we trust. It's obvious. In God we trust. So for those who know, some of the work I do is music. Go listen to my songs. They call me Mosayk, M-O-S-A-Y-K. Mosaic like the art form, mosaic like God's spirit. It's about broken pieces. And my Saul to Paul story is a jigsaw puzzle. It ain't a straight line, it's a jigsaw puzzle. And bad things kept on happening even when I knew God was in my life, even when I knew God was in it. I had a series of bad things that could have told me that this wasn't a good thing. But I still went for mine. And I saw the light and the love of God. That's when you know God is present, when you see the light. And like people always say, the eyes of the, what they say, the windows to the soul. Yes. You see it in people's eyes. You see the God in them. You see it in their eyes. You see the God in them. They, you know, and I encourage one church, and Brother Bishop, I pray and get your hallelujah, amen on this. But I just pray us all to smile. Smiling is the most benevolent thing. Smiling is the most brilliant thing. Let me give a smile. Smiling is what it's about. Smiling is the joy of this life. Smiling is just the richness of this world. When you have an encounter with Jesus' face, they didn't know him like others because he was smiling. He was smiling. You smile because you know who you are and you know whose you are. You smile because you have that glory. And when you smile, people want to know what's that joy in your heart. What's that song that you got in your head? What is it? What is it? Well, you sure? Because you ain't gonna be left the same when you figure out what the song is that's in my head. Because that song never goes away. So I say that now, and thank you all, One Church. I'm open to continue to talk if people have questions, but I definitely want to hear you all's own stories and how we all can continue to build and bond. And I look forward to hopefully speaking again in the future. So I hope you were blessed by the words today. I say sincere peace. Thank you again to my mother for being present. Thank you for my mother-in-law for being present. And thank you for my beautiful wife here who always encourages me. And again, thank you, One Church, Pastor Christine, Brother Chris, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, Brother Bishop. But you know, you're my man. So definitely y'all continue to do y'all thing. And like I said, I'm still here. If you have questions for me, I'm open, but I love y'all. Y'all my family too. So I'm African, so we don't do family, we tribe. So y'all my tribe now.